Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Recently, I had somebody reach out with a question. Emmanuel, howdy Emmanuel, asked, howdy, you said you paid off that duplex, but that it was a mistake. Why do you regret paying it off early? With my information, I try to be as transparent as possible, not only to show you that an average person like you can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less and make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. But I want you to know that some of the decisions we make along the way aren't easy to make. And I referenced this one where I paid off this mortgage early and kind of think of it as a mistake. But I reference paying off this mortgage early as a mistake. I don't regret it. I don't think anybody regrets having a paid off property. But financially, tactically, on the path to financial freedom, it was a mistake. There was something my daughter said when I was looking at paying this mortgage off or acquiring another rental that always really stuck with me. She was a teenager, and I was talking to her, because that's where we get all of our wisdom from. Those teenagers know everything, hire them before they forget everything. And I was deciding whether I should pay off my mortgage or buy more rentals. She said, in a moment of genius, it's hardest to make a decision when both outcomes are positive. Very accurate. So in my attempt to be transparent with my numbers, I didn't pay off a mortgage on a duplex. I paid off the mortgage on my one and only single-family house. All of the rest of my properties are small multifamily. This single-family house hit both the debt avalanche method and the debt snowball method. For the avalanche, it was my largest interest rate mortgage, and for the snowball, it was my smallest remaining mortgage. So it was the reason why I picked that mortgage of my mortgages to pay off early. There was another mitigating factor. This was around 2015, 2016, when lenders were still kind of recovering from getting kicked in the teeth by the 2008 housing recession. And they were generally only allowing you to have 4 mortgages in your name. So I had a single-family house that I purchased before I was an investor. I had purchased 3 duplexes, and at that point I had 4 mortgages in my name. I was not educated on DSCR loans, asset-based lending, or seller financing, and I kind of figured, well, these conventional loans that I'm getting in my name are my best path, so if I paid one off, I could rinse and repeat and get another one. So I focused. I owed $121,000 on my single-family house. I took all of the cash flow, all of the disposable income, stopped saving for the next investment, and I funneled all of my money into paying off this mortgage. It took, but somewhere between a year and a year and a half to pay it all off. It was a little easier because I was working a lot of overtime. I had a side hustle where I was playing World of Warcraft and selling things online because I'm a nerd. And I had 7 rental units and was house hacking in one of them, almost living for free. So saving and paying off this $121,000 in a little over a year wasn't actually that difficult. But why do I consider it to be a mistake? If I had taken the $121,000 and purchased a rental instead of paying off that mortgage, the cash flow wouldn't have been much different. The equity position wouldn't have been much different. A lot of people talk about wanting to have a paid off property. $121,000 paid off on a mortgage on a house that is now paid off versus $121,000 put into a down payment on a property that I now own that has a mortgage on it. My amount of equity is the same. I don't own something more because there's no longer a mortgage on it. But let's look past the cash flow being about the same, the equity position being about the same, and let's look at buying a rental property starts another depreciation cycle on a whole new property that I get to use to write off against income from my rentals. Meaning I will have more years like I did last year, where last year, after paying principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on all the mortgages and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy on future expenses, I had a profit of $203,000. It's one of the reasons why I retired, because I felt stupid going to work. It was a job I loved, and I still felt stupid going there. And I paid zero, nil, nada, in rental income tax because of my depreciation schedules and my write-offs. The single-family house that had the mortgage on it that I went to pay off was already mostly depreciated. Starting a new depreciation schedule allows me to make more money and not have to write a big check to the government, because what are they going to do with it? Another thing to consider is when I purchased these rental properties, the intent is for tenants to pay off the debt. There's a couple of things that makes debt good. One is that it makes you more money than it costs you. Two is that someone else pays it off. If I had a mortgage that was considered good debt because it was making me more money than it cost me, why would I want to pay it off when someone else is going to? Here's the thing that really made me lean more towards buying a rental than paying off a mortgage and thinking that it was a mistake. When I acquired that house, I paid the expenses to acquire a mortgage. Have you ever thought about that? Acquiring a mortgage has costs. I had to pay for an appraisal because while I pay for the appraisal as an investor, the appraiser doesn't actually work for me. The appraiser works for the lender to protect their interest, to make sure that the asset that they're using to back my loan has enough value to cover them if I were to default. Second, I purchased down the rate. I always buy down the rate with my properties because I actually hope that my investment properties perform better than all of my marriages. Actually, until death do us part. So since I plan on having these mortgages for a long time, I paid to buy down the interest rate so that my payment was better, increasing my cash flow. If I had those expenses to acquire that mortgage already paid, why pay it off when I could use another mortgage that's going to have those expenses and have the depreciation cycle started again and tenants pay off the loan? If the cash flow is going to be about the same, the equity position is going to be about the same. It doesn't always make sense to do it one way or the other. One of my favorite statements about real estate is, there is no one right way, but there is a one right way for you. At the time, with the limit of 4 mortgages in our name, it made sense for me to pay off the mortgage because I wasn't educated in those other options. But now that the amount of loans we're allowed to have in our own name is up to 10, and I understand DSCR lending, asset-based lending, seller financing, I wouldn't pay off a mortgage again. Now, at some point, I will have paid off mortgages again. But not today. When those mortgages are paid off, it's going to be because the tenants paid them off over time. I'm recording this video just before I take my cruise to the Mediterranean, and it really makes me think that I'm wishing more of you could reach financial freedom, because this being able to travel and do anything you want doesn't suck. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.